Budget 2010 brought to you by Harith Fund Managers.
The world's worst recession since World War II, many South Africans did keep their jobs, but not enough of them, according to some. In just 3 quarters last year, more than 900,000 jobs were erased, one of the worst years on record. It's the one issue that the minister can't ignore, according to Rudy Dix, who heads labour policy for Naledi, a body that advises powerful labour organisation COSATU.
The priority is job creation. So, a budget should be able to sustain the kind of program that the ANC decided on in its election platform, its manifesto. Job creation, its priority. It needs to address fundamentally that. We've gone through a crisis, so we need to see better spending, tack towards the kind of job creation departments in government, Department of Public Works, for example, on expanded public works program, approval of the industrial policy action plan, so we can get that going, and we have a kind of labor-intensive industrial policy action that creates the kind of jobs, formal employment in the public sector even.
For the last 15 years of the new government, we haven't really generated many jobs. We've wasted the boom years. Yeah, we probably created just enough jobs to take the job entrance. And what's happening around the country, you're seeing these sporadic social unrest areas. And it's all because of joblessness. And to me, the most important thing is job.
Shrinking revenue would have given the minister little room to manoeuvre. Between the competing demands of stimulating the economy and creating jobs, he must also look at the plight of the poor.
If we want to succeed in delivery, that we're going to have an expansion to the budget. The ANC has set itself a number of objectives to be able to reach. 5 of that is contained in the ANC manifesto. If we want to see South Africa and South Africans much happier in terms of the ANC stance on delivery, it has to keep to that. So it has to have an expansionary budget, which means that we don't necessarily have sufficient amount of income through tax because of job losses, through company closures, and therefore government would have to continue borrowing money.
To pay for this, the country's budget deficit may jump to as much as 8.3%, according to some economists. Gordan himself in October projected the gap would reach 7.6% of GDP, which would be the most since records began in 1961.
Yes, we are going to have a big budget deficit for another year or two, like most other countries, because the recession has certainly given companies a hard time, and that means they have tax losses that they can claim back from the taxman for the next while. And that means revenue is not going to recover quite as quickly as many people think. And under those circumstances, we are likely to see a budget deficit, probably in the region of about 7% going forward for this year, maybe even 8%.
But many analysts say the 2010-2011 budget shouldn't contain too many surprises, with some even forecasting no changes in taxes.
I foresee that we will not be expecting an increase in the top marginal rate of tax being 40%. Last year it was also proposed that sites disappear.
From a corporate point of view is that we don't expect major upsets in the budget, as has been the case in the past couple of years. I think what we're hoping to see essentially is maybe some clarification on incentives. So the industrial incentive that was put into our legislation some time ago, we still don't have clarity on the boards that need to be put in place and what is actually required. So I think what we often see now is legislation that gets implemented, but then it's not given effect to. So one of the main things that I think would happen is that we get some clarity around incentives.
No surprises maybe, but this budget is likely to bring a running controversy back under the microscope. In 2 words, inflation targeting.
It abolishes inflation targeting, or it looks at refining its mandate that includes, for example, other targets. Inflation is just a narrow monetary policy. You use interest rates as a way to curb expenditure so that inflation doesn't go up. Of course, this has been explained to many people in many different ways. For us, we think that employment is an important target, including growth, equitable growth, of course. So it's an important thing, and I think what is very different from the Minister of Finance, from the previous Minister of Finance, is that he's prepared to debate this.
Inflation targeting, we have to understand, has helped South Africa give us a little bit of a basis to use for our monetary policy. It might not be the best policy there is, but at this moment in time, many countries are using it. Within that context, I don't think we're going to get rid of inflation targeting. We may see a shift in the type of inflation that we measure for inflation targeting purposes, or we may get a shift in the band. And that's what I think the majority of people are expecting Treasury to come up with. So we'll either have a new method that we look at measuring that inflation target, and we may end up having a different target band.
The Finance Minister Pravin Gordan nailed his colours to the mast in this CNBC Africa interview in December.
What are the chances of the South African government abandoning inflation and targeting?
No, at the moment the chances are nil.
But 2 months is a long time in politics, and all of this will go into a mix later today.
I must say I love Budget Day because it really brings together, the reality of the economy and South Africa's, political economy in one easy to read and digestible statement.